Two more TVs heading to recycling are making a stop by my place on the way to recycling. So we can take a look and see whether these ones are repairable or whether they're not repairable. Two of them in this video. Let's check it out. This will be a fairly short one. This time I have a Samsung Smart TV. This is from 2015, I think. It's a 58 inch and apparently it's dead. So this one was on its way to recycling, so I grabbed it out of the truck basically that was heading to take it to recycling, and I'm going to take a look at this and see whether this is one that can be spared from the recycler or whether this one's going to continue on its way. I actually have, I think, the same set as this actually sitting right behind it, but the 40-inch version. I think the one I've got is the same version as this one. It is the same set as this that was given to me about 5 years ago. This is another reason why I don't work on televisions, because you can't work on them without a place to lay them down or set them up. When you pull the back off of it, they won't sit on the stand because the stand attaches to the back. So you got to take them off the stand in order to work on them. And that means you need a big place to set them down. This one here has got a burned power supply. I'll pull the power supply out and see whether something on here can be fixed. But there's a good chance this one's continuing its journey to the recycling center, because the person that owned it has already replaced it and they were taking it to the dump and they gave it to me. Whether I'm going to go to all the trouble of fixing this thing or just toss it, good chance I'm just going to toss it. But we'll pull the power board out and take a look at the power board. So say I hate working on things like this just because I got no room to take them apart. I don't have a bench big enough to set something like this on, so I kind of have to prop it up on a chair, and these large TVs are just a pain in the ass unless you have a really big workbench, which I don't. Now the big question on this is, did this part burn up just because the part failed and burned up, or was the backlight at fault that was drawing excessive current and it didn't shut down and overheated and burned up the power supply? This is one of the diodes, I think it's a diode on this one, that's in the high voltage supply for the lights or in the backlight control. Could be one of the MOSFETs here. It's hard to see because it's all burned up. But anyway, it's going to be a diode, I think, because these are the MOSFETs over here for the transformer. Okay, that's the power supply for the TV. This would be the power supply for the backlight, I think. But this is the hot side and this is the cold side. So it's probably a diode in the power control for the backlight. But why did it fail? Could replace the board only to find out that the backlights themselves are also shot. And since the guy that brought this to me, he just said, I'm taking it to recycling. If you want it, you can have it. I said, sure, drop it off. I'll take a look at it. Well, we know what the problem is. The problem is the board is shot. It needs a new board. We don't know what shape the backlights are. There's 6 strips of backlights on this set. Are the backlights any good, or are the backlights also shot? Well, we won't know until a board gets put into it. Because it's my set, I'm not going to invest the money to buy a new board. Even if the board is only 20 bucks, I probably wouldn't invest it, but they're not 20 bucks. A board like this would probably sell for 100 bucks plus shipping. And I just don't think it's worth putting $100 into an old TV. Right? Even though it's a smart TV from 2015, it's 7 years old. And you know what happens with smart TVs that are 7 or 8 years old. All of a sudden, they stop updating them. And once they stop updating them, things like Netflix and Amazon, all those other things no longer work. How do I know? Because I've got a smart TV that's just a little bit older than this. And those apps no longer update. When I try to launch certain apps, like YouTube, for example, it says an update is required. However, it's an Android TV, incidentally. When I go to the App Store, it says no update available. That's how they get you on the smart TVs. Actually, it's trying to think what model this is. It's a 2012. It's a Panasonic 2012. I think it's a 2012. So it's 10 years old, but it's a plasma smart TV, and I can no longer update. The apps don't work on it. So that's what happens when you get a TV that's a few years old, is they stop updating the apps. And once they stop updating the apps, you can use it as a TV, but you can't use the smart features. Anyway, this one here, I'm just going to throw it together We know what it needs. It needs a board. I'll get a picture of the part number off this thing. Can we read that? Anyway, that's the part number. The other barcode is that one there. Needs a main power board, but I won't be replacing this. This is just on its way to recycling. So there you have it. That's what's wrong with this one. It needs a board, possibly backlights, but power board for sure because it's all burnt up. I sent the guy a message that dropped it off. However, he dropped it off on the way to recycling. So I left it in his court if he wants to try to find a board for it. You know, there's a good chance that's all that's wrong with it is the power board is bad. And the backlights are probably, well, they could be okay. We don't know. But the power board has to be replaced really before we can determine if there's anything else wrong with it. That's starters. So the next set I got in was this one. Another one that was also on its way to recycling. And this one here is a Daytech. And the complaint on this one is it's got no sound. Just go through the menu here and see whether the speaker is turned on. Wouldn't that be funny if it was just the speaker was turned off? I just got to figure out how to do this. TV speaker. Ah, TV speakers are off. Well, let's turn them on. Maybe that's why there's no sound. You think? Maybe that's why there's no sound? I think I just got the sound back. Okay, let's get the menu off the screen here. Let's go to the channel setup. However I do that. Channels. Okay, this is the one I want. Channel, auto tuning. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, let me just go through this. This will tune in my in-house cable system. Let's see if this remote's putting out a signal. Well, this remote does appear to work. At least it did. I just changed channels with it. Okay, sometimes it works. There we go. It's got to point it at the right place. If I point it over here, it doesn't work. I got to aim it right down to the remote sensor, and then it works. So the only problem with this one was the guy had the speakers turned off. Okay, that's what he said. He said, "Oh, one's got no sound." Well, that explains how simple that one was. This is actually a nice TV. You know, this would be one that I would keep, and the reason that I would keep this one is because of the inputs it's got. Besides the fact that it's got component inputs on it, this also has an RGB input to hook up to a computer. So this can be used as a computer monitor, as a nice LCD computer monitor. It actually has not a bad picture. I'm going to connect it to my my cable box here and see. What appears to happen is, oh, you know what? It could even be my lights in here interfering with this. I've got fluorescent lights, right? CFLs, so it could be them interfering with the remote. But if I point it right at the set, it works. If I point it off to an angle, it doesn't, right? I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing it, but I got to point it right down to the corner here. And if I point it right down to the corner, it works.
Men and women from the generations. I don't think there's any question in the world about the fundamental.
Just looking at the picture. Yeah, it looks good. Just a standard definition. Well, it's a high definition set. This is standard definition that we're watching right now. What's the picture-in-picture do? Does this have two tuners or one? So it has picture-in-picture with AV input. I'm just curious as whether the picture-in-picture will whether it has two tuners. Okay, so the second input has to be one of the inputs. But as you can see, AV1, AV2, AV3, AV4, RGB, HDMI 1, HDMI 2. That is makes it quite a unique set in today's televisions, because today nothing has analog inputs on it anymore. So something like this is compatible with VCRs, DVD players without HDMI, cable boxes, and it does have HDMI, right? So it has both So that kind of makes a set like this one that's worthwhile hanging on to. Plus the fact that it's a conventional LCD using fluorescent backlights, which you know are going to last forever, right? The fluorescent backlights are probably never going to fail on a set like this. Yes, a little more power hungry, but they are extremely reliable. So a TV like this, I would certainly hang on to. This is very similar to what I actually use for my my monitor for when I'm working. This is a Daytech. I use a BenQ. I think they're both the same. I mean, the BenQ I've had for years. It was given to me. It's a 32-inch. This one I think is probably a 40, maybe a 46-inch. Weighs a ton. It weighs about 80 pounds. Anyway, there we go. This one's good. Thanks for watching.